I caught my spoiled sister kissing my boyfriend just 1 week before her wedding. Here's what happened. It was a Friday evening, just a week before my sister Rachel's wedding. I had spent the entire day running errands, picking up last-minute decorations for the wedding, dealing with family calls, and just trying to make sure everything went smoothly for her big day. Rachel had always been the center of attention in our family, and even though I had often felt overshadowed, I never hesitated to support her. She was my sister, and I wanted her to be happy. But that evening, everything changed. I arrived home after a long day, the house feeling unusually quiet. I figured Ben, my boyfriend, was in the living room as usual. I walked in, expecting to see him watching TV or scrolling through his phone. But instead, I saw something I could never have anticipated. There, in the middle of the living room, was Rachel, my sister, kissing Ben. Time seemed to freeze. The sight of my boyfriend and my sister locking lips, their arms wrapped around each other, sent a shockwave through me. My heart sank, and I froze in place, not sure whether I was dreaming or if this was some cruel joke. They both immediately pulled away when they saw me standing there, wide-eyed and frozen in shock. Rachel was the first to speak, a smile tugging at her lips as if nothing had happened. "Oh, hey, sis," she said, her voice too casual for the moment. "We were just, chatting." I felt the heat rise in my chest. My stomach churned as a sense of betrayal washed over me. I could barely comprehend what I had just witnessed. It was one thing to hear rumors or sense something was off, but this was reality slapping me in the face. What the hell is going on here? I managed to choke out, my voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Ben looked guilty, avoiding my gaze. His face turned pale, and he shifted awkwardly on the couch, clearly uncomfortable. "It's not what you think," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not what I think," I repeated, my anger rising. "You're kissing my sister a week before her wedding, and you're telling me it's not what I think?" Rachel rolled her eyes, standing up and brushing her dress as though this were a minor inconvenience. "It was just a kiss, okay? Nothing to freak out about." The audacity of her words hit me like a slap. She didn't even seem to understand the gravity of the situation. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered, my heart racing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was treating this like a minor misunderstanding, and Ben was standing there, looking like a deer caught in headlights, unable to even apologize. I turned to Ben, my voice steady but cold. "What's your excuse?" He looked at the ground, his guilt evident. I didn't mean for this to happen. It was just a moment of weakness, I swear." "A moment of weakness?" That was all he had to offer me? I felt my heart crack, but I didn't let it show. I couldn't let them both get away with this. Rachel crossed her arms, leaning against the couch. "You're overreacting," she said, the smirk never leaving her face. "It's not a big deal, okay? Get over it. I'm the one getting married, not you." The words stung. Rachel had always been the queen of the family, getting whatever she wanted, even at the cost of others. And now, it was clear that she saw this as just another opportunity to manipulate me into silence. I wasn't going to stand for it. I looked from Rachel to Ben, my mind racing with the realization of what had just happened. This wasn't just a kiss. This was betrayal. A betrayal that cut deep from both of them. "I'm not getting over this," I said firmly, my voice breaking with emotion. "You've crossed a line, and I don't know how you think this is okay, but it's not." And with that, I turned and walked out of the room, my mind whirling with the pain of what I had just discovered. I spent the rest of that night in my room, trying to process what had just happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel and Ben, together. I could still feel the sting of betrayal pulsing through me, making it impossible to calm down. My thoughts were a whirlwind. How could they do this to me? My sister, of all people? And Ben, the man I had trusted and built a life with, someone I thought loved me? The following morning was no better. I woke up with the same sick feeling in my stomach. Rachel had texted me, begging to talk, but I wasn't ready to hear whatever excuse she had cooked up. Ben, too, had sent a message, apologizing profusely but offering nothing more than empty words. Neither of them seemed to grasp the magnitude of what had happened, and that, in itself, hurt even more. I couldn't ignore the situation. I needed to confront them both. I needed answers. I called Ben first. I was angry, but I also needed to hear him say it, to hear him admit to what he had done. When he answered, his voice was shaky. "I know you're angry, and I get it. I messed up, okay? But it didn't mean anything. Rachel and I were just. I don't know. It was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you." "Didn't mean to hurt me?" I echoed, my voice growing louder. "You didn't think kissing my sister would hurt me? You didn't think that would change everything between us?" Ben was silent for a moment, I could hear him take a deep breath. Look, I don't know what happened. It was just a kiss. But I love you. I want to make things right. I almost laughed bitterly at his words. How could he love me after everything? How could he stand there and act like this was just a mistake? I don't know if I can ever trust you again, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I need space to think. I hung up, feeling like I had just severed a part of myself. But I couldn't bring myself to keep pretending like everything was fine. Ben had betrayed me, and nothing he said could fix that. Afterward, I called Rachel. I wasn't sure if I could even face her, but I needed answers. I needed to understand how she could do something so horrible to me. When she answered, her tone was defensive, almost as if she was already prepared for the confrontation. I know you're upset, but I swear it was just a kiss. Nothing more, just a kiss? I snapped, the anger flooding back. Do you really think I'm that stupid? Do you think I can just pretend this didn't happen? You kissed my boyfriend, Rachel. You were about to marry Mark in a week, and you did this. There was a pause on the other end. When Rachel finally spoke, her voice was cold, detached. You're overreacting. I'm getting married. You're not, so maybe you should let me have this one thing. It didn't mean anything. I'm sorry, okay? I felt my blood boil. You're sorry? That's it? You're getting married, and you don't even care about the damage you've done? You've ruined everything. I'm the one getting married, not you, Rachel snapped, her tone shifting to one of annoyance. I don't have time for this. You should be happy for me, not trying to ruin everything. Just get over it. Her words stung more than I expected. She had no remorse, no understanding of the damage she had caused. To her, I was just another person standing in her way. It made me realize something. Rachel had never cared about me. She only cared about herself. I'm done, I said, my voice shaking. I don't want to talk to you right now. I can't do this. I hung up and sat there in silence, my mind racing. I had never felt so alone in my life. My sister, the one person I thought would always have my back, had just crossed a line that could never be undone. And Ben, the man I loved, had chosen her over me. I couldn't stay in this toxic environment any longer. I needed to make a choice, either stay in this broken relationship or walk away and start over. But first, I had to figure out what was more important, family or my own well-being. The days that followed were a blur. The wedding was still a week away, but it felt like a lifetime. I couldn't help but think about Mark, Rachel's fiancé. He was clueless, completely unaware of what had been going on behind his back. Did I have a responsibility to tell him the truth? Should I expose the betrayal and risk causing chaos? Or should I keep quiet and let Rachel get away with it? I was torn, but one thing was clear, I couldn't let this go. My sister had hurt me in a way that couldn't be fixed with apologies. And Ben? He was no better. By the time I woke up a few days later, I knew what I had to do. Rachel and Ben had both crossed lines that could never be erased. I had spent countless hours thinking about it. Should I let it slide and move on, or should I expose the truth and rip the veil of secrecy from their deception? The latter felt right, but it was going to be messy, so messy that I wasn't even sure I was ready for the aftermath. But Rachel's dismissive attitude and Ben's weak excuses were the last straw. They both needed to face the consequences of their actions. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about the people who mattered. Mark deserved to know the truth before he made the biggest mistake of his life. It wasn't just my sister I was protecting. This was about preserving the integrity of relationships. It wasn't about revenge, it was about justice. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called Mark early that morning, my hands shaking as I dialed his number. I could already feel the knot in my stomach. He was such a nice guy, someone who didn't deserve any of this drama. But I knew I couldn't keep quiet. When he picked up, his voice was calm, like it always was, but something about his tone made me feel even worse. Hey, is everything okay? He asked. I could hear the concern in his voice, which only made me feel more guilty. I took a deep breath. No, Mark, everything is not okay. There's something you need to know about Rachel. There was a pause on the other end. What do you mean? He asked, the confusion evident in his voice. I didn't want to hurt him, but the truth needed to come out. I've found out that Rachel and Ben, they've been involved with each other. They kissed, and it wasn't the first time. This has been going on for a while. The silence that followed felt like it lasted an eternity. I could almost hear Mark processing the words I had just spoken. Wait, are you serious? Mark's voice cracked, and I could hear the disbelief in his tone. This can't be true. I wish I were making this up, but I'm not, I said softly. You need to know before you marry her. I don't want you to go into this with a lie. Mark was quiet for a long time, and I could practically feel his heart breaking through the phone. I don't know what to say, he finally muttered, his voice thick with emotion. I had no idea. I trusted her. I know you did, I said, my voice softening. But you deserve the truth. No one deserves to be blindsided like this. After a few more moments of silence, Mark spoke again. Thank you for telling me. I don't know what to do, but I can't ignore this. The conversation ended shortly after, but I could tell that it had hit him hard. It wasn't just about his wedding anymore, it was about his entire relationship with Rachel. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. But the worst part wasn't over. I still had to face Rachel and Ben. I knew they would both be furious once they found out what I had done. But I was ready to face the consequences. If they couldn't respect me enough to keep things honest, then they didn't deserve my silence. I waited for the storm to hit. The hours after I spoke to Mark felt like an eternity. I knew the confrontation was inevitable, but part of me still hesitated. Was I doing the right thing? I had ripped open a wound that would never heal, and the aftermath was going to be brutal. But deep down, I knew I couldn't live with myself if I let Rachel and Ben's lies continue. I needed closure, on everything. It didn't take long for Rachel to call. Her voice was laced with anger, her words sharp and defensive. You really did it, didn't you? You told him everything. You had to ruin everything, just like always. I didn't even flinch at her words. You ruined everything, Rachel. You and Ben both. I didn't force you to make those choices. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and I could practically feel her rage. I don't know what your problem is, but you've just destroyed my wedding. You're just jealous because I'm getting everything you could never have. I laughed bitterly at her words. Jealous? You're honestly going to pull that card? I'm not jealous, Rachel. I'm disgusted. You betrayed me, and now you're trying to make it about me being jealous? She scoffed. You think you've won? You think Mark is going to forgive you for this? He'll hate you just like everyone else. I could feel the weight of her words, but I didn't let it get to me. I'm not the one who betrayed anyone. If Mark chooses to leave you, that's on you. I'm just trying to make sure he doesn't get hurt. Don't you dare call me again, Rachel spat, her voice trembling with fury. You're not family anymore. You're dead to me. I didn't say anything in response. What was there left to say? My sister had crossed a line, and there was no coming back from it. As much as I wanted to believe things could go back to normal, I knew better now. Rachel wasn't the person I thought she was, and Ben was even worse. Ben, of course, also called me that evening, his voice filled with guilt and frustration. I don't know why you had to go to Mark, he said, his voice pleading. We could have figured this out. Why did you have to make it public? I did it for the right reasons, Ben, I replied, my voice cold. You don't get to lie to people and expect no consequences. You hurt me, you hurt Mark, and now you're going to have to deal with it. Please, don't do this, he begged, his voice cracking. I messed up. I love you. I'm sorry. You don't get to tell me you love me after what you've done, I snapped. It's over, Ben. We're done. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. There was a long silence on the other end before he finally spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, I really am, but it was too late. The damage was done. As the days passed, things unraveled quickly. Mark called off the wedding, of course, but the fallout wasn't just about the wedding. It was about everything Rachel and Ben had built together, every lie, every betrayal. Rachel was left to deal with the consequences, and I couldn't feel sorry for her. As for me, I moved on, but the scars were deep. I spent time healing, surrounding myself with people who cared about me, and focusing on my own happiness. I couldn't let the actions of others define me anymore. I learned a hard lesson that week. Blood isn't always thicker than water, and sometimes, the people you trust most can hurt you the most. But in the end, I came out stronger. I found peace in knowing I made the right decision, no matter how difficult it was. Mark and I stayed in touch, and though he was heartbroken, he was thankful for the truth. He was eventually able to move on and find someone who would treat him right. And as for Rachel and Ben, they were left with nothing but the wreckage of their own actions. As I reflect on everything that happened, I can't help but wonder, did I do the right thing? Was exposing the truth worth the pain it caused? But in the end, one thing is clear. Truth always comes out, and sometimes, it's better to face it head on than live in the shadows of lies.